We're live, we're live, we're live. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back. I'm Abby Haggard. This is my tiny corner of the world. And I have my elephant in the room with me because it's kind of been that week already. And I wanted to talk to you today about something that just made me laugh a whole lot. What I wanted to talk about was the idea of cutting ourselves some slack. You know, there's so much going on. There has always been so much going on, but there's so much going on now that we're a little overwhelmed, really. A lot overwhelmed, really. And, you know, the ripple effect where it hits hardest is at home with us because we've got nobody else to yell at when everybody else has gone home. And so I was saying to myself, you know, when we beat ourselves up and we tell ourselves that we're just not doing this right, and good morning, Eddie, we're not doing it right, and what's wrong with us, and blah blah blah. We really aren't very kind to ourselves. And so when I just finished the video on Tuesday, I had this crazy silly idea because to me it works, and it goes like this. The title of today's video is, what if we named our three brains? Now, there's all different kinds of functioning parts of the brain, but the three big ones, the ones that I talk about a lot in Pivotry and Motion and in the training techniques and so on, the three brains, the subconscious brain, which is our oldest brain, it's been around forever, and it basically keeps us alive. It doesn't have any of the modern conveniences. It's pre-verbal, so you can't tell it anything, and it goes by sensory. You know, if something was scary, then it's filed under scary, and if something was hot, it's filed under hot, and like that. It doesn't go by the day, the week, the month, and then there's this part. So the subconscious brain is at the back. The top, in the middle, is the conscious brain, the thinking brain. And it can do logic and it can do abstract thoughts, and it thinks it's a bag of chips and all that. And it only doesn't do nearly as much work. In fact, the subconscious brain, 95% of everything that keeps us alive is done by that brain. And it's always in the present. Everything is now. If we get an idea and it's positive or negative, the subconscious brain thinks it's the 6 o'clock news. Right. So, which is why if we get ourselves in a downward spiral, the rest of us acts like it's a downward spiral. So the conscious brain, which is basically, you know, saying, yes, this is my other good side. It is ego driven. And then the third brain, which actually acts as kind of a go-between between the subconscious and the conscious, is a part of the front. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And this area, it doesn't start to develop until late teens. And it's the part that understands cause and effect, which is kind of a big deal, really. And what it does comes under a heading called executive function. So the executive function is the decision maker. The executive function says, buy, sell, no, wait. Snip the red wire after the black wire. And here's why. That's the prefrontal cortex. And as I said, it's a go-between. So that the thinking brain and the subconscious brain have no idea anybody else is in the room. The prefrontal cortex, the executive function brain, says, yeah, you are. Why can't everybody just get along? And I said to myself, it would be fun to name them. I think we should name them. I think it's like having your code word when you, good morning, Miss Susan, grand rising. My room looks different. Did I move things? I closed a door. So the glass doors I just closed because there's drilling going on in the building. And when I leave the doors open, I forget to close them. It sounds like somebody thinks there's a bank vault in here with me and they're drilling in from someplace else. So that's the big difference. And how are you, by the way, Susan? So what I'm talking about is getting silly in order to correct this thing that we end up doing to ourselves. And the silly thing, since we have these three brains and, it's like juggling oranges, I said, why don't we name them? Why don't we give them a name? And then when we're talking to them, when that little internal loop tape of ours is playing, maybe we would be less judgmental. Maybe we would be a teensy weensy little bit kinder to ourselves if we were actually calling them by name, as opposed to you idiot. You see, you can say you idiot, and it doesn't feel personal. The thing is that the brains know, the brains know, and they're hurt. They're offended. I know I am. When somebody calls me an idiot, I think, what? On what scale? And who are you when you're at home? And then it just devolves into a fist fight, and there we are. So one of the fun things that I had every time I sit down with a new client is we discuss what their code word is. And so this is kind of along the same path. The code word that people choose for themselves is the word. It's their safe word. It's when they start spinning, when they start panicking, when there's too much going on around them outside that they can't control, and they just kind of go off the deep end and they start making snap judgments because it's fear-based, right? And they're not doing themselves any favors. I say, so what's the code word? Pick a code word that's funny. Because if you have to say it to yourself more than once to get your attention, then it's funnier because it's exponential, right? So if the code word is banana, banana's not that funny a word, but it gets funnier every time you repeat it. So if you have to say it 35 times till you get your attention, all of a sudden it's a good time. So I wrote the title for the video. Why don't we name our brains? And so there's three brains, right? There's the thinking brain, and the feeling brain, and the action brain, the doing brain, right? The doing brain says, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing the other. The thinking brain says, I don't know about that. Have you seen the weather? And the feeling brain is saying, I just want someone to pay attention to me. So I said to myself, well, let's come up with words. Let's come up with words. So these are the words that I came up with. Oh, and before I get started, I just want to say another quick thing about these little emails I'm getting from the other platforms. But I'm also getting something from Facebook telling me how many people are watching. And it's really kind of interesting because it's a, I may get one day and everybody's commenting and saying hello and chatting amongst themselves, which is wonderful. And then other times it's just everybody's at home filing their nails. And I'm thinking, hello, is anybody out there? But then later on, I'm able to look at the insights and I'm thinking, oh, look, there was 142 of you. None of you were speaking? None of you were typing? What were you doing? Why wasn't I in on it? And LinkedIn sent me a thing and said that I had quite a few people who are checking it out. So there's a turning point, obviously. It's Pivotry in motion. There's a turning point when a critical mass, the right number of people see something and then tell their friends. That's how things gradually develop a momentum. It just becomes a spontaneous thing. So it looks like that is beginning to happen, which is great because it's, I started doing this in 2011. So we're at it for a bit now, and it's finally, I'm maybe hitting my stride, and it's also you guys are saying, oh, look, she's still doing it. So thank you for that. Now back. So three brains, right? Okay, here we go. So I'm expecting to get remarks. The image is reversed today. What? My image? I'm reversed? How am I reversed? What have I done? Morning. Oh, good morning. Good morning, Nave. How are you? My image is reversed. How did I do that? I didn't touch anything. Oh, dear. All right. So here we are. I'm thinking that my thinking brain, you know, when you're trying to concentrate and people are making a lot of noise, they're eating chewy food and they're, you know, talking amongst themselves. I'm thinking that I want the letters QT because on the QT means quiet, right? And I'm thinking that if I say mirror image, do I have a mirror image? How did that happen? What have I done? Okay, if it's a mirror image, we'll fix it, just not right now. So it's been kind of a complicated day. So thinking brain would like quiet, fine then. So that the initials QT. But then, of course, if you say it, cutie, oh, so my thinking brain is a cutie. It's sly, right? And it's coming up with stuff because it's thinking all the time. And I thought, yeah, that works. That works. So now, when the guy in the back of my brain hands out things for me to say before I've had a chance to think of them, and sometimes they're brilliant, and sometimes it's his third cousin who can't get a job, and I say it, and then I hear me say it, and I'm thinking, what? What happened? Why? So I like cutie for my thinking brain. And then the feeling brain, I was thinking, because I was playing with the elephant, and the elephant is very squishy. And I thought, oh, well, my feel brain, my emotional brain, my feeling brain, we're going to call him Squish. And it sounds stupid, and it's going to sound stupid in an elevator when I'm having a conversation with myself and people get on and off the elevator, but I'll explain it to them. And they'll only think I'm a little bit odd, right? So, and then the third one, the doing brain, which is the, you know, I'm all that in a bag of chips. Given my track record, I think that the nickname for my doing brain is Crash. I think that's sending the right message. I think it's solid, and I think it's going to give me an opportunity to call myself out in better ways than I tend to call myself out when I'm frustrated, overworked, stressed, confused, wondering why the camera turned itself around. I didn't touch anything. I swear I didn't touch anything. The opportunity to do this, to humanize, to personalize, gives us an opportunity also with our later folders when we're writing down what is bothering us. We can also specialize. We can also say, is this a think, a feel, or a do issue? And then we can pick it, we can pick the name. And you see, it has a double whammy, because if we pick the code name to go with the brain that has failed us, then later on, when we come back to the later folder, at the end of the day, and we check through and we see how we're going. You know, an interesting thing that happens when you do that, especially when you identify it by the kind of brain function that was responsible, is it really gives you a very clear idea of how and where you're off the rails, and therefore what has to happen to get yourself back on track. Because the whole point of the Slater folder, the whole point is to give ourselves time to breathe, time to relax, time to say, it's not that bad. I got on the elevator the other day, and it's very warm in the building. The air conditioning hasn't been turned on yet, and it's not the Sahara Desert, but it's a warm day. And if you have windows facing the sun, then the apartment becomes a bake oven. And so what I've done is I've got one of those portable fans, and I rinsed a hand towel under the cold water, wrung it out, and then put it over the fan. So it's creating its own little air conditioning because it's blowing through a cold, damp towel, right? So I was telling this to this woman on the elevator, and I don't know her, never seen her before. And she said, we're resorting to cold, damp hand towels and portable fans in a building like this. And I said, you know what? It's a small thing. It's a first world issue. We can also just take our shoes off and walk around on the linoleum floor in our bare feet for a minute, and we're good. And she started to laugh, and she said, you know what? You're right. I was getting out of control here. Thank you. So what I've started to do with all of this, put the mirrorage in the later folder. Thank you, Eddie. Billy says, don't worry about it. It still looks the same. The mirror image looks the same, or the room looks different. I don't know what I just said. I look the same. I'm not switched. This is why I'm not really the tech person. I need to have a tech person to save me from myself. So the conversation in the elevator the other day with the stranger, most of what we're kvetching about is a first world problem. Most of what we're annoyed about is a first world problem. I was talking with Maggie, and we're looking at instances of people talking about their grand schemes of marketing their new software. And then the next day, you have another group of people poo-pooing and downplaying that with a completely other story, taking the reverse of it. And Maggie was saying, they suck at this. They suck at this. They're terrible. And I said, well, marketing is a lot like any specialty. If you don't do it, it looks easy. You say to yourself, anybody could do that until you try, right? So I think what's going on is there's way too many tech savvy linear thinkers thinking marketing. Maybe I'll do that and then take over the world. And then they do it and you go, oh, no, no. Don't fire that person. Keep that person. So we're weighing in on all these things, and there's a weird ebb and flow about the way people are reacting, overreacting, underreacting. And the conversation that Maggie and I are having, that a lot of people, I think, need to just nonstop, Billy, just a nonstop. Sorry, inside joke. So Billy is working on 742 things simultaneously, and he's dealing with people, many of whom are not good at the things they're doing. And so sometimes, the patience wears a little thin, which is why the idea of naming the brains who are responsible is not a bad idea. Because if you're walking around talking out loud to yourself, at least if you're calling them by name, you don't sound quite as crazy, right? So when I was talking to this woman, and she said, you're right, it is a first world problem. I've got to stop navel gazing. I've got to look at the big picture. Trouble is, sometimes when you look at the big picture, you're looking at this small thing and you think, well, maybe it's the big picture. Oh, no. And you don't really want to look at the big picture. So I think good morning, Maggie. I think it's a small shift. It certainly isn't Pivotry. It is a small shift. I think what has begun to happen for us is we are so overwhelmed. We are so busy trying to juggle all the flaming chainsaws that we are forgetting most of the time that juggling flaming chainsaws isn't our superpower. And this is very important. I touched on the superpower on Tuesday, and I want to touch on it again because it certainly falls into alignment with which brain you're relying on the most. If you're a chef, you're going to be relying on the sensory more probably than the logic. You're going to be relying on cause and effect when you're trying to get everything cooked and ready at at the right time. What we are not paying attention to is, have we created our priority based on our superpower? Have we? Good morning, Freddie. I'm not seeing your tick on end. Billy, can you tell Freddie why it might be missing? Because Eddie just saw it and I didn't. Can you see, Billy? Can you let me know if you can see Freddie's hello today? This is a tech issue. So back to this idea of the big focus, the small focus, the superpower, and then putting a name on it. A superpower is the intersection of what we are just naturally, spontaneously good at and what is needed in the work we're doing. So quite often, we have a job, somebody's hired us, so we show up, we do the thing. During that period of time, when we're at work, we are bringing many of our skills. Some of them revolve around our superpower. And when we talk about Pivotry in motion and the definition of Pivotry, by definition, Pivotry is the decision to change gears, to shift up or down, to bring in a stronger quality of your personality, to bring in a more bookish, a more adventurous, a more demanding, a more introspective part of our personality as the superpower needed right now. When we make those decisions, we are shifting the game because we are bringing exactly the right ingredient to just make the recipe that much better. And when we bring our superpower, because it's the thing we're just naturally good at. Billy, where has Freddie said hello? That's it. Abby can't see Freddie's comments. So maybe it's a button that Freddie's pushed, or maybe but I haven't touched anything. So I don't know if it's probably me. Who touched it? Which one touched it? It's the physical one. It's the do. Okay, Crash. Which button did I push? Which button did I fail to push, Crash? So when we think about our superpower, it means that if we bring that quality, it's always our default. It's always our go-to. If I'm in a grocery store and I bring my go-to, I'm using it in the context of shopping for food. If I bring it at the gas station, I'm using my superpower to refuel my car, clean the windows, make sure I put the hose back and put the lid on, get in the car and drive away. Whatever the superpower is that we bring, we apply it in a different way, specific to the location, specific to the job requirement, specific to the outcome expected. And people forget that. How could I have blocked him? How would I have blocked him? Billy's asking me a question. I don't know. I haven't blocked Freddie on Facebook because we chat all the time. So it's something, Freddie, I apologize. We will figure it out. Billy, my tech czar, will walk me through it when the video is over and we'll sort it out. And I apologize. There's been quite a few last minute weird little changes of things. And so every time when I open the computer and I turn it on, I'm looking at it thinking, what is that? And so back to the superpower, clearly it's not tech. Part of my superpower is being able to segue between conversations. What we want to be able to do to feel confident and to have a better time doing things like naming our brains, and having a direct personal conversation with them. And the other is looking at a situation, assessing what we do really well, and then figuring out how we custom fit what we bring to make everything turn out right. This is part of the Pivotry project. This is part of the conversation that I have with clients when we're talking about what direction do you want to go. And we start by saying, it's difficult to know where you want to go. It's a whole lot easier to make a short list of all the places you don't want to go. When Maggie and I were first getting started, I said, so to discuss your superpower, what you do is you get a piece of paper and you write at the top, things I suck at. And that surprised her. And I said, because after you've listed all the things you suck at, the superpower is going, still here. And it gives us an opportunity to lighten the mood, to laugh, which is very healthy, very cathartic for us, and realize, because we've given ourselves time to relax and just let the brain, the thinking brain, so that would be the cutie, process and say, oh, it's this. And then we understand that no matter what, if there is something about us that is distinctive, that is unique, and there always is, every single one of us brings something, right? If there is something unique, and that is our superpower, then it's just an exercise, a fun exercise, a conversation exercise, a mentor coach exercise in profiling. How do we use this? Where do we use this? When do we use this? Maggie and I were talking for a few days, and I said, okay, I think we've got your superpower. Let me know if I'm onto something. And I said, this and this when you put them together. And she said, yeah. And I said, there. Now what we want to do is look at every opportunity in which that combination is needed, is essential. And in any scenario, where is it needed and essential? And it won't mean that you can't do your superpower. It means that you will customize it so that it's always a little bit different depending on the need. And one of the things that I want to give you as the technique today, in order to figure out a code name, you do have to do a little bit of profiling. So we have the 3 brains, and we're going to do this 5-question profile exercise for each brain. All right. So if you have your handy weapon of mass construction, we're going to start with the thinking brain. Okay. All the questions are going to be the same across all 3 categories. So the first question is, and this is about your superpower, okay? What does it do? That's question number 1. What does it do? Right? And the reason we need to identify that right off the top is because every piece of information narrows the funnel, narrows the path, and gives us a clearer, sharper idea of where we're going, right? So what does it do? The second question we ask is, who does it serve? Now, the difference between what does it do and who does it serve is, what does it do is a function. It fills a gap. It takes us from A to C because it's B. Who does it serve is the outcome of that. Once we have filled that gap, who wins? Who says, hell yeah? What does it do? Who does it serve? Right? It's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. You start to see, right? Okay. Question number 3. So the first one was, what does it do? The second question was, who does it serve? The third question is, what does it change? What does it do? Who does it serve? What does it change? How is the world? How is the food? How is the ride? How is the bathwater? How is something different because of what we bring? What does it do? Who does it serve? What does it change? In every situation, in every scenario, there is always a give and a receive. It's always a two-way street. There is audience and there is presenter. There is seller and buyer, right? Always. You can't have one without the other. So question number one was, what does it do? Question number two, who does it serve? Question number three, what does it change? Question number four, why do they care? Why do they care that it changed something? Why do they care that it impacted them, but not them? Why do they care that it performs that specific function and achieves that specific outcome? What does it do? Who does it serve? What does it change? Why do they care? Remember, we're doing the 3 brain categories, and these questions we are asking is to help us come up with names that go with each brain. There's a thinking brain, there's a feeling brain, and there's an action brain, a do, think, feel, do, right? And the last question, because again, it's always a two-way street. The last question, so first question, what does it do? Who does it serve? What does it change? Why do they care? What's in it for me? As Shania Twain once famously said in a song, did I shave my legs for this? I got up and I'm facing the front. Where's the parade? Essentially. So in approaching a profiling exercise that way, we're not diving into the thing itself. We are asking and answering questions about the ripple effect it creates. The ripple effect, the outcome, whether it's an intended or an unintended outcome, the ripple effect tells us the thing we need to know. Because the ripple effect is the wake it leaves. It tells us the size and the shape and the speed and the weight and the direction. And when we want to know what is my superpower, and we say, I want to know what my superpower is. What does my superpower do? Who does it serve? What does it change? Why do they care? What's in it for me? And when we know those things about our superpower, we can then say, what does it do here? Who does it serve there? What does it change now? Why do they care in the days ahead? What's in it for me to get out of bed and shave my legs? Why are people invested in this? Why does it matter? What is happening once we introduce it? And right now, especially more than many times in our shared history, knowing these things gives us the opportunity, gives us the capacity to identify ourselves as essential in the face of all sorts of rhetoric in the media that nobody will be working, everybody will be fired. That's terrifying. It's terrifying for the people at home who wave you goodbye when you head off to work or you head off to school. Good, you're gone. Alas, alone. If we know those 5 questions, if we know those 5 answers, and we look at a scenario in which there is a competition for the work that was not there before, then this diagnostic, this Q&A, gives us our confidence back, because we're not just standing there saying, I don't know. We do know. And now we can feel like we're in charge. We're not second guessing ourselves. So 3 brains, right? We have 3 brains that we're interested in. And there's more different areas that do more different things. But these 3 are the big 3, right? So there's a thinking brain. And a thinking brain needs to focus. And a thinking brain doesn't like interruptions. And a thinking brain, when it loses its focus, gets snurpy. And it lets you know it's not happy. So let's keep it happy. Let's give it a fun name that it's going to like. Let's give it a name that in some way reflects thinking. And then match your personality. And you can try all different kinds and share with me. Eddie's been telling Jeff, he's been looking for a job. Make a list of what you wouldn't like to do first. Yeah, my list, what I wouldn't like to do first, tar roofs. Second, stand in the middle of a hot highway with a sign that says stop on one side and slow on the other. Right there, 2 jobs. So easy. And then once we figure out where our superpower is needed, we can then profile that job, that location, that need, so that we can say to ourselves, where else is my superpower needed? Well, we don't need a facilitator. Okay, what do you need? Well, we need somebody who can make sure everybody just gets along. Oh, you mean camp counselor? Oh, or facilitator. Oh yeah, I guess that is a facilitator. Well, we don't want one of those people who runs meetings. No, but you do want everybody to get along. Yeah, all right, we'll call it something else. Do you know anybody? Oh God, SCADs, because they've just called it by a different name, correct? So the object of the exercise, we're just starting June. This is just the 2nd ABCAST in June, which means that we're just heading into summer. Somebody else I ran into yesterday said, did you know that it snowed down east? No, really? Well, I'm glad I didn't move down there. Maybe the snow will come and follow us and find us just to get even. So when we're making the list, when we're looking at what it is we effortlessly do, it's difficult because we can't really see ourselves objectively. It's helpful. Snurpy, it's all yours. It's like one of those little birds, right? It's that. So when we don't know because we can't see, we need to get a bigger perspective. When it doesn't matter how far we back up, it's not far enough. Then what we need to do is ask somebody who knows us well. Tell me what I'm good at. Tell me what you think I'm good at. And then, of course, the fist fight will ensue in 3, 2, 1. When you have that conversation, you realize there are so many functions, so many tasks, so many jobs you don't want. As Eddie said, you don't want to tar roofs. You don't want to take tickets from small sticky fingers to go on rides because sticky, right? And that helps us identify the thing that is exciting, that does make us say, hell yeah. And these days, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we need a lot more of the hell yeah than the other stuff. So the object of the exercise today, thinking brain, feeling brain, acting brain, doing brain, come up with names, write them down. It's like you get a potato and you put googly eyes on it. You know, you get a sock out of the laundry, you put googly eyes on it right away. You're having a conversation and you haven't folded the laundry because so we don't have enough googly eyes time. We don't have enough time to just have a conversation with ourselves and be pleasant about it. We don't give ourselves enough time to turn down the loop tape that's complaining. And what we forget when we say, well, I tried, but it's not working, you have to have something ready and put in place before you get rid of the old one, because nature doesn't like a vacuum. You have to build a pattern of behavior. Do it once, that's great. But your subconscious brain won't track it. It will always pick what's familiar, that you've repeated a lot. So this new thing, repeat it. Do it twice a day. Do it 6 times a day. Every day for weeks. How many weeks? I don't know. Start with 3. And gradually your subconscious brain will say, oh yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah, come on in. You're safe. You're okay. You're familiar. I'm not going to look like an idiot. And now we have developed the pattern of thinking about who we are, what our brains are doing, what is getting in the way of our vast potential, and what is slowing down our trajectory for success. And these are not questions you can ask and answer on your own. Self-help, the flaw in that is that the self doesn't know how to help. Like the linear tech people don't know marketing. Well, it looks easy when you do it. Yeah. So here we are. We are being inundated by people who have a delusional village idea in mind, a city on a hill, where there is no hill, where there are a lot of people who don't want to live in a village. And they didn't take that into consideration. And now reversals are happening. And they've just finished telling us that we'll never work again. They've just finished telling us that we're going to be killed in our sleep. And now they're telling us that AI is too expensive and we need all the humans back. And half of us are saying, really? Well, I don't know if I'm available now. And the other half are saying, oh, thank God, thank God. So on that note, on the gratitude note, I also want to say that I set up something called Stan Store. And it's a link on my page. It's highlighted and it says Stan Store. And it's where you can go, click in, and purchase a mentor coaching session with me. You can book the time, book the day. And then we connect and we figure out how to do it. And the reason that everybody needs one coaching session is to define the terms, understand what they're for, what they do, who they serve, what they change, and practice the technique with a spotter until you get good at it, gooder at it, so that you can help yourself rather than set you back. So that one session is kind of the kickoff, right? It's like the joke about people laying sod and the fellow has to keep sticking his head out the window and yelling green side up if you don't know and you're colorblind. So what we're looking for right now, with everybody overwhelmed, people making decisions that are snap decisions because they're too exhausted to think, and then they regret it because they didn't think, you need a grounding exercise. You need this thing that I think it was Susan I first told it to. When you get spinning, what you do it in front of a mirror. Go and stand in front of a mirror and put your hand on top of your head and just stand there. Because by the way, you look ridiculous, and that's the point. It makes you laugh. Say, oh, good, I have your attention now? Fine, as you were. And we have disrupted the spinning. We all need that external point of view. We all need that visiting expert to say, yeah, and just turn people enough and say, oh my gosh, how long has that been there? Exactly. So what if we name our 3 brains? What if we name our think, feel, do brains? What if we give them a code name that lends personality to them and makes it less likely that we're going to be doing that just completely unconscious beating ourselves up, the shaming and the blaming? We don't deserve that. We deserve to feel like we're walking here. Because by the way, we are. So you can find my stand store on my Abby page. You can reach out to me and we'll figure it out how to get you to my stand store. I'm posting it once a day. Here's the ad and it's on my page. But if you just go to my bio, it should be right at the top. And let's get started. Let's get you that one kickstart conversation to get you on the right path. Summer's coming. Dancing in the streets. Unless you're upset and unhappy and you're sitting in the dark at home, yelling at yourself. And none of us need that. Right? Okay, so stuff happening this weekend. It's a very important day on Saturday. It's the anniversary of D-Day. And every military person I know, including myself, takes a moment. Takes a moment. There's an amazing picture. I have to find it again. It's 2 images of a beach, of a tropical beach. And the top picture is a bunch of people in bathing suits playing color picture. And it says, you get to go here. And the bottom picture is a war scene. And it's in sepia. That off brown and white. You get to go here because they got to go here. And it's time for us to thank the people who got in the boat and obeyed the row, damn it, row. So that's my plan for Saturday. I'm going to go and check out the Aviation Museum. I'm going to go and check out the War Museum. I'm going to go and stand and look at people in uniforms that mean something to me. Because it's awesome. And who knows, when I stand in front of that Air Force uniform, that's the same one my dad wore, I might name it. See what happens when I think about the military and I think about my legacy and my people? It's because they have a name that I'm able to look at them and say, it matters. So let's try it. Let's get me back on the silly track. Let's get us naming our brains, being kinder to us, and then message me and tell me how yours turned out. I can't wait to hear. Before I go, thank you for doing this. Without you, this is a rehearsal. This is ABCAST 467. It's going to be 475 fairly soon. And then 500 is just over the hill, around the corner. And that will be a milestone. So this is because of you and as a result of you and for you. And I think it's one of the best ideas I've had probably ever in my career. So thank you. And on that note, the drill is be good to you. You deserve it. Remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too.